Hello there YouTube peeps. With the final show being less than 2 months away, or if you're watching this sometime in the future, I might be less than that or might even be here at this point. But with a new kind of annual expansion comes a lot of changes, and good old Bungo has been updating and changing exotics to make them more viable and more useful. With each and every season, expansion and stuff like that. But they haven't gone into everything just yet. So I've just been thinking a wee bit about what they can do to some hunter exotics to make them more usable, let's just say. More appealing to actually use rather than sitting in the vault never being used again. So for Knucklehead Radar, it's mainly a PvP exotic and doesn't have much utility inside of PvE. What it does is basically you start shooting at a target, it marks them, and you have your radar on at all times even when you're ADS. And it gives you a small amount of bonus damage when the enemy is at low health. Or great for PvP, not so much for PvE. So they could tag on one sentence down the bottom and make it something like tagged targets take more damage. Give it a nice little debuff inside of PvE for tagged enemies. It doesn't have to be something insane, give it like 5% and it can stack with other debuffs as well. Or if that's too little, make it 10% and make it stack too. That'd be a neat little change for something that never gets used inside of PvE. The next on the list, I'm jumping all over the place. Next on the list is Ophidia Spade. Now they did buff this one recently, but it's pretty limited, only being used on Solar. And hey, I had a nice little thought of why not enable it to work on Stasis and Strand as well. They're both technically bladed powered melees with the shuriken and the threaded spike. Now can you just imagine having 3 shurikens or having 2 threaded spikes running around and throwing it at one enemy, having it bounce between multiple, and each kill allows it to do more damage. That'd be pretty damn nice for both, as both Stasis and Strand hunters can get ways to get back their melee energy a wee bit faster. So yeah, maybe I would actually use Ophidia Spade a lot more if it does work with Stasis and Strand. But who knows if that's actually going to be a thing, or it's going to be too overpowered, or it's not going to fit into its identity or whatever the hell. That'll be a cool change and I do hope to see it. Next on the list, Gemini Jester. Where are you? Another PvP favorite, but not much on PvE. What it does, you basically dodge in an AoE around you. Enemies are disoriented and it removes their radar. I'm pretty sure in PvE it blinds them, I think. But I'm not entirely sure because no one uses this in PvE. It's basically a PvP exotic and that's about it. But what I would like to see change to them is their dodges being able to stun unstoppable champions. You know, feeding into the whole blind meme. But not only that, but defeating disoriented targets would grant you class ability energy. So you could just dodge. Depending on the subclass, you can use your powered melee to get some kills. Maybe to the subclass itself. You can go ahead and get more class ability energy through that, then you dodge again. You just keep on dodging and getting your melee back, while constantly blinding everything around you. That'll be pretty neat. Not only that, it'll have some champion utility as well. Because believe it or not, this thing does have some radius to it, and it can affect enemies through walls. So hey, if there's an unstoppable charging you, and you're behind cover, you just dodge and it'll stun it. That'd be a pretty neat change. Can't see it being too overpowered. Okay, next on the list, It's you, right? Oh yeah, you. The meme exotic itself. Now, others have probably said this and I'm probably gonna be yet another one to say it. But just take its exotic effect and throw it on Raiju's harness. And stuff it. I'm pretty sure people barely use Raiju's harness, people barely use Blight Ranger. So we just get rid of this perk or delete it entirely, not even throw it on Raiju's. And we could make it like the Titan exotic. The Curious of the Falling Star, I think it is, the Yeet exotic. Except for Hunter, it will double the damage of Gathering Storm. You know, the Arc Super where you throw the pole, stick it to an enemy. That's some pretty nice damage in AoE and jolts and all that. Yeah, just allow this exotic to make it deal double damage. That'd be pretty nice. Because if I remember correctly, Star Eater Scales only buffs the initial hit. It doesn't buff any of the aftershocks after it actually lands. But this exotic, if it were to change how I want it, would buff the entire duration of the super. Which will make this pretty damn appealing for hunters to go with. And as a little cherry on top, it could add another line saying the sliding melee. Wait, what's it called again? What's it called? Temper Strike, is it? Yeah. You can allow Temper Strike to grant you more super energy. This is a little cherry on top to make it a bit more viable for passive play. I'm pretty sure not many people use Temper Strike in PvE to begin with. So that'd be a nice way to shake up the meta a little bit. Okie dokie, what's next? Sealed Ahamkara's Grasps. Yeah, these things do look cool. They used to be very niche meta back before they changed it. Essentially, you could almost auto-load this thing instantly with multiple melee charges. But now they changed that. And they did try and rework the exotic, but honestly, no one uses it as well. It's not that great altogether. So you could just delete the current exotic effect, since clearly no one wants to use it or go near it. And it could just basically make a copy of another class's exotic. You know, make them into worm gods, make them into current scenes, make them into necrotic grips. Because necrotic grips on Hunter would be pretty damn cool, especially on the Arc build. So yeah, I want to use these again, but not in its current state because it's kind of useless. The next thing as well. And the last thing, it seems. Well, I couldn't really think of anything for Gwiz Vest because this is garbage. It used to be insane in PvP, but not anymore. And yeah, the last thing. Good old Triton of Vice. Man, I was so excited when this exotic dropped, but I have never been more disappointed in an exotic. In my proposed change is making the damage bonus work more like Whirlwind Blade for swords. If you're not familiar with Whirlwind Blade, you simply get bonus melee damage while making melee hits. So this will differentiate it from Syntheseps, which this basically shares an effect with. You just get bonus melee glaive damage while surrounded, which Syntheseps also works with glaives, as well as worm gods. So this is the only thing on Hunter to buff melee damage. So it could make the glaive melee damage work with could work like Whirlwind Blade. And currently it's only at 100%. You could easily make it to 150%. And that won't make this thing overpowered. Because I'm pretty sure even though Worm God's Caress gives 200% bonus melee damage, people barely use that with glaives. So bumping this up from 100% to 150%, it won't be too bad. And it could be similar to Whirlwind Blade. It can stack up to 10 times, and each stack can give you 15% glaive damage. Not only would that be good for Adkli, just running around poking things, keeping up that bonus damage, but also maybe a little bit better for single target damage against mages, champions, even bosses even. But that's the other thing as well. This type of playstyle is pretty damn risky because your survivability is basically non-existent. So if they were to go a little bit ham in buffing this thing, I could make it similar to strongholds for titans, where blocking gives you restoration based on how much hits you block. If they don't want to do that, then I could get blocking or receiving damage while blocking basically kills you, and the amount of kill you get depends on how much stacks of the melee damage you have. And it could be similar to Ophidia's Spade, where you do a certain thing, it refreshes the buff, or it just pauses the timer altogether. So you could run in, get some melee hits, buff your glaive melee damage, and if you need a heal, you just guard. And guarding could reset the timer. Guarding could pause the timer altogether, and each hit you take while shielded can get you back some health. Can get you back some health depending on how much stacks of the buff you have. Another could do 5 HP for each stack you have up to a max of 50 HP. That'd be pretty nice. You simply take 4 hits and there you go. You're back up 4 health. And if that's a little bit too much, you could even put an internal cooldown of the healing. Maybe once every half a second. It'll take you 2 seconds to get back to full. And if you're doing that pretty often in a DPS phase, you're gotta be losing out on quite a bit of damage still. Even then, your damage wouldn't be breaking the bank or anything. Pretty sure you'll be losing damage if you try and pull something like that off. So yeah, the list was pretty short. That's basically all I managed to think of. Because all the rest of the exotics do feel like they are useful for some applications. And others like the Guizen Vest, I literally couldn't think of anything. So yeah, that's enough of me rambling. Let's hope I can predict the future of some of these potential changes, and I'll see you guys next time.